Right, so today is day 36, but yesterday was day 35, and I missed my usual window for recording the weekly sort of roundup of everything that's been planted. So I'm going to do that quickly now, and hopefully it'll be going up later today. Macadamia is healthy, some tiny evidence of new growth. Aloe barberry, the tree aloe. Still has the soil that got onto it accidentally last night. I'll brush that off, it's not rained off by this evening. Obviously no change. Little tiny Syzygium, or tree hibiscus, which, yeah, just so you know, the other name is snot apple. Does have some new growth coming, which is good. The soursop is looking really good. Continuous new growth. These were the leaves that were just coming out when I put it in, so yeah, so everything since that is newer, which is nice. There's also some new growth on the bay laurel. The Bambusa is still a little bit sunburnt, but there is a lovely little zigzagging new growth coming. And the Aloe by the Washingtonia is actually finally opening up. Might be an opportunity for me to actually work out for certain if it is Nereiensis. And the Washingtonia is looking reasonably healthy. We've got one of the old leaves starting to die off, and no great progress in terms of growth, but again they'll take a while to settle in. So you can see the Aloe Cameroni around the Waterberries, Syzygium, are starting to come into flower. The Waterberries themselves very much stagnating in this stressed but not yet dead state. I'm hoping we'll see some pickup soon. There's a couple of little bumps of meristems there that look like they might be doing something, but I'm not convinced. Yeah, hopefully we'll get some more active response before the end of the season. Here's Rolf. The raw Wolfia, or wild quinine, is doing very nicely indeed, I would say. Very perky little thing. One unhappy leaf, but in the context of a tree that's pretty good. The Brazilian queen palm, Sagres, looking pretty healthy. That looks like a nice new leaf coming up there. This one has stagnated a bit, but it might just be taking a little longer to settle in. Okay, the sausage tree has been a little sunburned. This is the Camellia africana sausage tree. You can see most of the sunburn has been taken by this very martyr-like Dracaena. Hopefully that will recover. But the sausage tree itself is mostly fine, just a few little patches of sunburn. They do seem rather prone to it when they're small, so hopefully this will turn out to be quite a good way of trying to limit it with this dense cover. There is, I don't know if you can see, a nice little bit of growth just poking out of the centre there in the meristem. Then Wyatt's giant Schefflera, the Heptaplurum actinophyllum, is having a nice vigorous little bit of new growth there. You can see how it's twisted more upright. The leaves generally are looking a little bit better oriented than they were. I'm not sure if that's just the angle we're seeing it from. And down below, the Aloe and the Calico are looking reasonably perky, so we might finally have a break to the dominance of the bamboo here. So my little birthday Mapanis, ironically, for a tree that really cannot cope with shade, have a little bit of sunburn. No sign of new growth yet. This one actually does have a tiny bit of new growth coming there. but overall still kind of in the settling phase. And the little Thorminiastrum, the tree philodendron, has some lovely bright green new growth coming up there. Quite happy with that. All the leaves seem pretty perky, and all those little companions seem well rooted, so I'm happy with that. Okay, and our tea tree is again showing really nice vigorous new growth. I'm a little concerned at how pale it is, but I find a lot of the Australian trees seem to be paler than I expect when they first come up. Not sure if that's a regional stress thing or just something about the sort of environment they're used to. Most of ours come up red, so I guess that could be pretty concerning for people from some areas. And the moringa is still looking really just wonderfully green. I'm just very, very pleased with that. I'm going to take off a couple of the twiglets that have died. But yeah, very, very pleased with that. Our little lychee is still looking kind of pale from its original exposure to too much sun where it was sitting in its pot, but its leaf texture is pretty good. These ones have perked up a little. It does look like new meristem starting to poke through there. So hopefully we're all good. And the first of the Garcineas is also showing some nice new growth. You can see the little red lipstick in the middle there, which is good. So this is one of the African mangostines. The second Garcinia hasn't really changed visibly since it went in, but it doesn't look unhealthy by any stretch, so hopefully we're going to see some growth soon. Right, the Jackalberry, on the other hand, has been eaten down to twigs. This isn't too bad. You can see this has been primarily going after new leaves, which usually means, and you can actually see it just here, the growth points are left intact, and that often leads to quite healthy growth afterwards. So I'm not, when you get this sort of eating back, I'm not usually that concerned. It's if we start seeing damage at the bases, or if the damage was primarily restricted to the bases and the tips of growing areas. This is probably a specialist has done this, so probably some co-evolution, probably perfectly capable of coming back from it. Our lovely, lovely little wild pear, Dombea. So again, this is not actually that closely related to an actual edible pear. It's just a really good one for pollinators. So this is Dombea rotundifolia. You can see the very rotund leaves compared to the other Dombeas. Looking healthy. You can see again some nice new growth coming to replace the previous new growth. And the K apple is just covered in lovely little bursts of green, bright green growth. It's definitely looking perkier than it was. And the same is true of the previously very sunburned Bauhinia variegata. You can see all these wonderful new leaves. The smaller ones are also producing some new leaves, so may have been overcautious with these. And the Aloe Cameroni is also coming into flower here. This one is still lagging behind, but you can see there's new leaves coming. That aloe is not yet flowering, but the Dracaena is definitely perking up. So the rough lemon, Citrus Jackalberry, is again still nice and vivid green. This actually looks new to me. Yeah, there's some new tender growth on there, and are abundant and usually harmless, but sometimes just a bit too abundant. Specialists, the citrus swallowtail, haven't yet found it, which is always nice for a small tree because that can really set them back if it's too soon. You can see the ginger bush went in it, is now pretty settled, plenty of new growth, and the old growth has stood back up mostly. The other rough lemon is still somewhat behind that one, and it looks like something has decided it's going to do a bit of eating here, I think, unless that was previous damage. No, there's some fairly fresh caterpillar damage there. This doesn't look very extensive, so I suspect it was more incidental. and whatever it was decided this wasn't what it was after all, which is the best ending for a little caterpillar saga. Your Dracaena perked up again, and this ginger bush is not as perky. It's dropped all its original leaves, but there's definitely still life in there, so may well come back. Tiny little Brachystegia spiciformis there. Nice and green and healthy. Definitely some new growth since it went in. It's still going to be small for a while though. The new growth present but somewhat stalled on the Trichilia, the Musakili. Yeah. And I think we can guess what happened to the other one of the oh no, sorry. I thought it had vanished. The other little Brachystegia seedling that had gone in with the original planting here is actually still alive and fairly healthy, so hopefully the ants, because this is a Myrmecaria, which is usually, as far as I know, more of a farmer than a plant destroyer. We don't have many herbivorous ants here. The termites do that for them. So hopefully that shouldn't be a problem. I think possibly the problem with this one is it's just too close to the ant's nest, which is, yeah, pretty busy there. And the last of the Brachystegias in there is pretty happy with life, I would say. So our little volunteer fig has lost a few of its leaves, but the leaves it's kept pretty perky, and there's some new growth point coming here, so I'm happy with that. And our mango has fully greened up, looking like it's always been here, so I think that's probably taken pretty well. The more exposed little moringa is coming into new leaf, but you can see it suffered a little bit more in the transplanting. And our little winter thorn, which at this size is still going to be doing most of its growing at this time of year. It's only once it's mature it'll switch over to winter canopy. It's looking pretty healthy, so I'm happy with that. So the more recent round of Malinas, having been stripped of the leaves do seem to have stayed a little perkier than the first ones, because we have had less rain than when the first ones went in, I would say. So that means that one's taken reasonably fast. The Brydelia, on the other hand, has sulked a little bit, so that is alive, but it's not happy about it. So we'll see what happens there. Another reasonably perky Malina. Slightly less unhappy Brydelia, but still not thrilled with the whole situation. Malina happy enough. There we go, a Brydelia that doesn't hate me. Some new growth coming, which is good. Malina perfectly happy. And a slightly less unhappy Brydelia. Still not thrilled, but slightly less unhappy. Malina, once again, very happy with life. And Jacarandas, this one's pretty perky, I would say. Lovely new growth. You can see some new growth perking up on the Spathodia, the flame tree. And this little Thespesia, tree hibiscus, which I thought I had killed, has a tiny little bit of new growth coming, so I'm very happy indeed. Jacaranda quite happy, and again some little bits of new growth coming. And the little Phoenix is kind of middling. I might actually bring some more soil over here because this seems like it's collapsed more, which isn't going to be great for its rooting. Good for shelter, not great for rooting if the soil keeps moving down. We'll see. I'll probably do that gradually, actually. So we've got another very perky Malina from the original Malina planting. And again, nice and perky. For anyone who's been wondering what Mexican sunflowers look like that doesn't have the misfortune of living with them, they're very pretty. You can see those bright orange flowers up top there. Yeah, that's the Mexican sunflower. Yeah, but the Malina's very happy, nice vigorous growth. And once again, nice vigorous growth. We've even gained a little bit of height here. You see the green stem here? That's all since it went in. That's good. And again, a nice vigorous little Malina. So I think This might have more to do with time of day than anything else, but they're feeling a really nice texture. So this is the Staculia quinquelobata. You can see here, quinquelobata, 5 rather blunt lobes actually, so I might have that back to front, it might be a different one. But the ghost tree, anyway. And yeah, it's definitely perking up nicely. Even though, again, I think there's an added effect of time of day. The texture of this is really vigorous and strong. And 1, 2, yep, all 3 Pachiras showing some new growth if we go right up close. So I'm perfectly happy with that. Okay, so round 1 of the Pachira glabra. I would say looking pretty pleased with life. This is new. Yeah, so that's pretty vigorous. And the Aloe Cameroni again, coming into flower. Less vigorous, but still pretty happy. And more flowers. Even less vigorous, but still seems like a healthy plant with some new growth. And flowers furthest back, so I think that's a soil effect. The new growth coming up on the rather unhappy to be transplanted prickly pears. Tamarind nice and open at the moment. Will close up as the day goes on. Got a tiny bit of texture coming into these leaves, and I think this is a little bit of sort of pushing up. Nah, that's not. But a little bit of texture coming in. Both of these. That's some new growth on this one that was already sorry for itself. So I'm hopeful about that. And the next Pachira is stagnating a little bit. This one perkier with a little bit of new growth coming. And this one again, fairly perky. This most recent line, kind of understandably not doing much yet. Tiny little tip of new growth. And a new leaf, if you can see that in there. And some more. Well, I forgot that wasn't the last of the Pachiras. This one from a pot that might be aquatica, but I don't think so. Yeah, pretty vigorous. That's nice, healthy leaf. Doesn't seem to have noticed that it's not in a pot anymore, just carrying on as it was. This has a nice new leaf. I think that might have been on it when it went in, but it's healthy enough, so I'm happy with that. And same there. Nice little bit of new growth, but that might predate the replanting. Bamboo is looking greener. And yeah, we've got some nice little bits coming, just opening up and getting a little bit more lively. Nothing from the bottom yet, but that'll take a while. Right, and the other bamboo, some signs of growth, I think. Yeah, this feels fresh, but not as vigorous, I would say, as the first. Right, so I think I will double check, and you might get a clip added on at the end if I've missed one, because I've run out of hand space. But I think that should be everything. So yeah, generally speaking, I'm pretty happy. I'm a little concerned about the bridelias, but it might turn out a little bit like the Bauhinias. They're dying back fast, then coming back. Still worried about the Waterberry. I'm hoping at least one of those will end up surviving and thriving, but we will see. So yeah, tune in later today, or possibly earlier today, for day 36's planting, and we'll see what it is.